The room went dead silent, and I knew I'd screwed up. Conversation stopped mid-sentence. The jazz band hit a wrong note. Every head in that ballroom turned toward me like I'd just announced a fire. All I'd said was, "Those offshore transactions look interesting, Tristan. Curious timing on those transfers." I'm Victor Callahan. I'm 51, and up until that moment, I'd been the senior systems engineer at Ashford Financial for 14 years. Built their entire $3.5 billion cybersecurity infrastructure from scratch. The kind of work nobody notices until something breaks. Let me back up. This was Thursday night, one of those quarterly celebration events where executives pat themselves on the back and the rest of us drink free bourbon. I wasn't even supposed to be there, but my buddy Neil Patterson dragged me along. Neil and I go way back. We were both Navy, both ended up in cybersecurity, both somehow landed at Ashford around the same time. "Come on, Vic," he'd said that afternoon. "Free drinks. Might as well show our faces." I should have stayed home. See, 4 days earlier on Monday morning, I'd been running routine maintenance on the audit control system. Standard stuff I did every week. Check the logs, verify the backups, make sure nothing weird was happening. Except something weird was happening. I found a series of transactions that didn't make sense. Transfers to an offshore account in the Caymans, each one just under the $10,000 reporting threshold. The kind of thing designed to avoid automatic flags. Small enough to slip through, large enough to add up fast. I pulled the full history. Over the past 18 months, someone had moved $50 million through that account, all authorized by the same person, Tristan Ashford. Now, Tristan was 33 years old and about as qualified to run financial operations as I am to perform surgery. But his father, Richard, was the CFO, so qualifications didn't matter much. The kid had an MBA from Wharton and a Tesla, and spent most of his time posting on LinkedIn about disrupting legacy systems and embracing innovation. He treated anyone over 40 like we were dinosaurs, called us the old guard like it was an insult. I spent Tuesday and Wednesday digging deeper. That $50 million was just the start. When I traced it back through hidden ledgers and adjusted balance sheets, I found the real problem. The company had been hiding losses, big losses, $320 million in accumulated shortfalls over 18 months. Tristan had been cooking the books, moving money around, adjusting projections, creating enough smoke and mirrors to get through quarterly reports. The $50 million offshore was probably his personal insurance policy, or maybe a payoff. Either way, it was fraud. I should have gone straight to the board, should have filed a formal report. But I made the mistake of thinking there was still loyalty in this place, still integrity. So Thursday afternoon, I sent an internal email to Richard Ashford. Not accusatory, just factual. Found some irregularities in the audit logs we should discuss before the quarterly review. I got no response. Then Thursday night at that ballroom event, I saw Tristan giving his usual speech, standing at the microphone talking about sustainable growth and financial transparency with that entitled smirk. I'd had 2 bourbons, maybe 3. My filter was gone. When he finished, I walked up and said it. Those offshore transactions. Curious timing. His smile died. His father stiffened next to him. The whole room felt it. That shift when something goes wrong and everyone knows it. Tristan's phone lit up in his hand. I caught a glimpse of the screen. A text from someone. "Handle this. Tonight." 20 minutes later, 2 junior managers I barely knew pulled me into a glass conference room. Tristan followed, with Richard trailing behind, looking uncomfortable. "Close the door," Tristan said. I stayed standing. "What's going on?" "What's going on?" He turned on me. "You just violated company protocol in front of 200 people. I asked a question. You made an accusation. About confidential financial matters you have no authority to discuss." He was good at this, flipping it around, making me the problem. "I built the system that tracks those transactions. And we pay you to maintain systems, not to have opinions about executive decisions." Each word came out sharp, rehearsed. "You accessed confidential data without authorization. That's a security breach. I have full system access. That's my job. Had access. He was already signing something. A termination notice. Effective immediately." My phone buzzed. Email notification. Subject, termination security violation. Just like that. 14 years gone. I looked at Richard. He wouldn't meet my eyes. The 2 junior managers stared at their laptops. I could have fought it, could have argued, but what was the point? They'd already made the decision. I walked out. The lobby was worse. People stared. Some looked away fast. Others whispered. The receptionist who'd brought me coffee every morning for 5 years pretended to be busy with paperwork. My footsteps echoed on the marble. The elevator took forever. Outside, the night air hit cold. I stood there on the sidewalk looking up at that building. 14 years, I'd built the security systems that protected billions, fixed critical failures at 3 a.m. while executives slept, carried them through 2 major audits that could have destroyed careers, and they'd erased me in 14 minutes. I pulled out my phone, started to call Neil, then stopped. My phone buzzed again. Not another HR email. Something different. Alert. Tier 3 surveillance protocol activated. Secure data transmission in progress. I stared at the screen. Then I smiled. See, when I built that audit control system years ago, I added something extra. Nothing illegal. Just insurance. A failsafe. If my credentials ever got revoked without proper authorization, the system would automatically activate enhanced monitoring. Everything gets recorded, everything gets backed up, and everything gets sent to a secure external location. I'd designed it after watching 3 good engineers get fired for refusing to falsify test results. Watched the company bury their complaints. That's when I realized loyalty only went one way in corporate America. So I built myself some protection. When Tristan clicked that termination button, he didn't just end my career, he triggered my failsafe. Right now, encrypted copies of every financial transaction, every audit log, every modification made to the system over the past 18 months were routing through secure channels. Destination, the Federal Audit Oversight Commission. I put my phone away and started walking. Somewhere behind me, in that glass tower, Tristan was probably celebrating. Thought he'd solved his problem. He had no idea what was coming. Here's what most people don't understand about building systems. When you spend 14 years writing code that protects billions of dollars, you learn to protect yourself too. That failsafe I mentioned? I built it 7 years ago. Back then, 3 engineers got fired for refusing to sign off on some questionable compliance reports. Good people. They filed internal complaints. The company buried everything and escorted them out the same day. I watched it happen and realized something. Loyalty in corporate America only flows upward. You're loyal to them. They're loyal to profit. So I added a feature to the audit system. Nothing malicious. Just a safety net. If my admin credentials ever got terminated without following proper procedures, the system would automatically switch to enhanced surveillance mode. Everything gets logged, everything gets backed up to external secure servers, and everything gets packaged into a compliance report that goes straight to the Federal Audit Oversight Commission. I didn't plan to ever use it. It was insurance, the kind you hope you never need. Tristan just made me file a claim. I got home around 11 p.m. Thursday night, made a bourbon, sat on my balcony watching the city lights. My phone showed the progress bar. Data uploading, 47%, 61%, 78%. The system was sending everything. Transaction logs, authorization codes, timestamp records, user modifications, the whole digital paper trail of Tristan's fraud. By midnight, it hit 100%. I poured another drink and went to bed. Friday morning, my phone rang at 9 a.m. Unknown number. Mr. Callahan, this is Agent Laura Pierce from the Federal Audit Oversight Commission. I sat up. Yes? We received an automated compliance report from Ashford Financial's audit system last night. Quite detailed. Shows significant irregularities in their financial reporting. What kind of irregularities? Unauthorized modifications to certified audit reports. Manual adjustments to hide operational losses. We're talking about $320 million in concealed shortfalls over 18 months. She paused. The logs show these modifications were made after the reports were officially filed. That's a serious violation. Sounds like it. We need technical assistance reviewing the system architecture. Given that you designed it, would you be available for consultation? I was terminated yesterday. We know. That termination is actually part of our inquiry. The timing raises questions. Another pause. You flagged the offshore transactions, didn't you? I sent an internal report to the CFO. Got fired 6 hours later. That's what we thought. We'd like you to come in Monday morning. Bring any documentation you have. I'll be there. After I hung up, I called Neil. Vic, man, what the hell happened last night? He sounded stressed. HR sent out a company-wide email. Said you were terminated for unauthorized access to confidential data. Tristan's covering his tracks. Covering what tracks? I told him. The offshore accounts. The $50 million, the hidden $320 million in losses. Neil was quiet for a long moment. Holy shit. Yeah. So what now? Now I wait. The system I built already sent everything to the feds. Tristan doesn't know it yet, but he's done. Good. That kid's been a nightmare since day one. Neil exhaled. Listen, a few of us are pissed about how they handled this. You've been here longer than most of the executives. They had no right. Appreciate it, but stay out of it. Don't put your job at risk. Already at risk, man. Half the IT department is updating resumes. If they can fire you like that, none of us are safe. We talked for a few more minutes, then I spent the rest of Friday morning documenting everything. Not just the technical logs, but the timeline, the pattern of transactions, the shell companies, the offshore routing. I'd been looking at financial systems for 14 years. I knew the difference between honest mistakes and deliberate fraud. This was deliberate. Around 1 p.m., Neil texted me. Emergency board meeting. Richard looks like he's dying. Something's happening. I texted back. Investor presentation today? Yeah. 2 p.m. Big one. Tristan's been prepping all week. I smiled. That presentation was about to go sideways. See, here's what Tristan didn't understand about the system I built. It wasn't just recording data. It was validating it. Every financial report that goes out has to pass integrity checks. The system compares the official numbers against the raw transaction logs. If something doesn't match, it won't validate, won't let you export, won't let you present. And right now, nothing would match. Because Tristan had spent the past 18 months manually adjusting reports to hide those losses. At 2:30 p.m., Neil called. Vic, you need to hear this. The presentation just imploded. What happened? Tristan stood up to present the quarterly numbers, had his slides ready, confident as hell. Then the validation error popped up on the main screen. In front of 30 investors. What'd it say? Report validation failed. Data integrity error. Export denied. Neil was almost laughing. Someone asked what it meant. Then someone noticed the stock price dropping. Real time. On the ticker in the corner. How bad? Started at $127, dropped to $109 in about 10 minutes. Everyone started panicking. Phones came out, then the main screen went black. And when it came back on, there was a message, big red text, said something like, System integrity alert, unauthorized modifications detected, automated compliance report transmitted. Didn't say where it was transmitted to, but everyone assumed the feds. I leaned back in my chair. How'd Tristan react? Tried to play it off, said it was a technical glitch, but Richard's face, man, he knew. Patricia Mills from the board started asking questions. Tristan couldn't answer. The whole thing fell apart. Stock still dropping, down to $112 now, 17% in 2 hours. After Neil hung up, I made coffee and pulled up the news. Nothing yet, but it wouldn't take long. By 4 p.m., the headlines started hitting. Ashford Financial Trading halted amid technical issues. By 5 p.m., it got more specific. Sources report federal inquiry into Ashford financial audit practices. By 6 p.m., my phone rang again. Mr. Callahan, this is Richard Ashford. We need to talk. Now. His voice sounded rough, tired. About what? About fixing this situation. Can you come to the office? I checked my watch. I'll be there in an hour. Thank you. I took my time, showered, changed into a clean shirt, made another coffee. They could wait. When you've got leverage, you don't rush. I walked into that boardroom at 7 p.m. Friday night. The energy was completely different from Thursday's celebration. Richard sat at the head of the table, looking 10 years older than he had 24 hours ago. Patricia Mills, the board chair, sat to his right. 2 other board members I recognized flanked them. Tristan wasn't there. Victor, thanks for coming. Richard's voice was flat, exhausted. I stayed standing, didn't sit down, didn't shake hands. Patricia spoke first. We have a situation. The system locked us out of critical financial data. We can't access audit reports, can't generate compliance documents. The federal inquiry makes this time sensitive. I'm aware. Can you restore access? Richard asked. Yes. Relief flickered across his face. What do you need? 2 things. I met his eyes. First, Tristan resigns. Publicly. Effective immediately. Full admission of responsibility for the audit irregularities. Richard's jaw tightened. That's my son. I know. You're asking me to destroy his career. I'm asking you to accept responsibility for fraud. He destroyed his own career when he cooked the books. Patricia leaned forward. Mr. Callahan, I understand you're upset about your termination, but what you're describing sounds like extortion. No. Extortion is threatening harm to get something. I'm offering you a solution to a problem you created. I pulled out my phone, showed them the Federal Audit Oversight Commission email. The feds already have everything. User logs, transaction records, modification timestamps. They don't need me to tell them who made those changes. I put the phone away. The logs will tell them. Tristan's authorization codes are all over those illegal adjustments. His user ID approved every single transaction through that offshore account. This isn't about me getting revenge. This is about you getting ahead of a federal investigation. Richard looked at Patricia. She looked at the other board members. What's the second condition? Patricia asked. The audit system service contract transfers to my consulting firm. Exclusive license, maintenance, security, deployment rights. $3 million annually for 5 years with an equity stake option. One of the board members, an older guy named Howard Chen, spoke up. That's a $3.5 billion system. You're asking for complete control. I built it. I maintained it for 14 years. And right now, I'm the only one who can unlock it. I looked at each of them. You have a choice. Accept these terms and get your system back online today. Or spend the next 6 months trying to rebuild from scratch while federal investigators crawl through your data. That's blackmail, Richard said. His voice had an edge now. No. That's business. I stayed calm. You fired me for exposing fraud, called it a security violation to cover up your son's crimes. You humiliated me in front of the entire company. 14 years of loyalty gone in 14 minutes. I let that sit for a moment. Now you want my help. Fine. But it's going to cost you. Not just money, accountability. Richard stood up. He's my son, Victor. Whatever mistakes he made, he's still my son. Then you should have thought about that before you let him commit fraud. I didn't back down. You're the CFO, Richard. You had to know something was wrong. Those losses didn't appear overnight. $320 million doesn't just vanish. His face went red. We had some bad quarters. We were managing it. Managing it? You were hiding it, and your son was stealing from the company while you looked the other way. That's enough, Patricia cut in. She looked at Richard. He's right. We need to get ahead of this. She turned to me. If we agree to your terms, you restore full system access tonight? Within an hour. And the federal investigation. That's between you and them. I'll cooperate with their inquiry, answer their technical questions, but I'm not their informant. The system sent them the evidence automatically. What they do with it is up to them. Patricia nodded slowly. She looked at Richard again. We don't have a choice. Richard sat down heavily. For a long moment, he just stared at the table. Then he looked up at me. You really won't budge on Tristan's resignation? No. What if I resign instead? Take responsibility myself. I considered that. Doesn't work. The logs show Tristan's authorization codes. The feds will want to talk to him either way. You resigning just makes you both look guilty. He made mistakes, bad judgment, but he's not a criminal. He moved $50 million through an offshore account and hid $320 million in losses. That's not bad judgment. That's fraud. I softened my voice slightly. Look, Richard, I don't enjoy this, but you put me in an impossible position. You chose to protect him instead of doing the right thing. He's family. I get that. But I gave this company 14 years, nights, weekends, holidays. I bled for this place, and you erased me without a second thought. The room went quiet. Patricia broke the silence. We accept your terms. Draw up the contract. Richard, you need to talk to Tristan. Richard closed his eyes, nodded once. Where is he? I asked. Home. He left right after the investor meeting collapsed. Richard's voice was hollow. Said he needed to think. He needs a lawyer, I said. The feds are going to want to interview him, probably early next week. Patricia looked at the corporate counsel who'd been sitting silently in the corner. Draft the service agreement, standard exclusivity terms, $3 million annually, 5-year contract, add the equity stake clause. While they worked on the paperwork, I pulled out my laptop and started the unlock sequence. It wasn't complicated, just required my admin credentials and a master override code I'd built into the system years ago. 15 minutes later, the system came back online. Financial data accessible, audit reports unlocked, compliance tools restored. I closed my laptop. "You're good to go." Patricia slid the contract across the table. I read through it carefully. Everything I'd asked for, everything in writing, I signed. "I'll need first quarter payment by next Friday," I said. "You'll have it." Richard stood up. "Victor, for what it's worth, I'm sorry. You deserved better than this." I looked at him. "Yeah, I did." I walked out of that building at 8:30 p.m. Friday night. This time, nobody avoided my eyes. A few people even nodded. Outside, the city lights looked different, brighter somehow. My phone buzzed. "Neil, did it work?" "Yeah, it worked. Good. Drinks tomorrow?" "Definitely." The weekend passed slow. I spent Saturday in my garage working on the Mustang, a 1967 fastback I'd been restoring for 3 years. Needed new brake lines and the carburetor was giving me trouble, but it was good work. Kept my hands busy while my mind processed everything. Neil came by Sunday afternoon with beer and pizza. "Company's in full panic mode," he said, popping open a bottle. HR sent out another email. Said there's going to be organizational restructuring. Code for heads are gonna roll. "Tristan resign yet?" "Not officially. But word is Richard's been meeting with lawyers all weekend." Neil took a drink. Stock closed Friday at $104, down 22% in one day. Ouch. "Yeah. Some investors are calling for Richard to step down too. Board's getting pressure from all sides." He looked at the Mustang. "How's she coming?" "Getting there. Might actually have her running by summer." We drank beer and talked about things that weren't Ashford Financial. Football. Neil's daughter starting college in the fall. Normal stuff. It felt good. Monday morning, I met with Agent Pierce at the Federal Building downtown. Brought all my documentation, printed logs, timeline analysis, transaction records. She was mid-40s, sharp eyes, no-nonsense attitude. We spent 3 hours going through the technical details. "This system architecture is impressive," she said, reviewing the fail-safe protocols. "You built redundancy into everything." Had to. Financial systems can't afford single points of failure. The automated reporting feature. That was your addition? Yes. Designed it to trigger if my credentials got terminated without proper authorization. Insurance policy. Smart. She made notes. "We're going to need you to testify when this goes to prosecution. You comfortable with that? Whatever you need." "Good. We'll be in touch." She closed her folder. "Off the record, companies need more people like you. People who build integrity into the system, not just profits." I left feeling lighter somehow, like I'd done what needed doing. That afternoon, the news broke. Tristan Ashford resigns from Ashford Financial amid federal investigation into audit fraud. The statement was brief. Took responsibility for errors in judgment and procedural failures. Didn't admit criminal wrongdoing, but the message was clear. He was done. Tuesday, I filed the LLC paperwork for Callahan Systems Consulting. First client, Ashford Financial. $3 million annual contract, already signed. Wednesday, my phone started ringing. Other companies, competitors. They'd heard about what happened, wanted to know if I could audit their systems, build similar safeguards. "Mr. Callahan, this is James Perry from Meridian Financial Group. We're looking for a security consultant, someone who understands both the technical and compliance sides. Your name came up, I'm listening. We'd like to bring you in for a meeting, discuss a potential contract. Are you available next week? I can make time." By Thursday, I had 3 more calls. By Friday, I'd scheduled 5 meetings for the following week. Turns out getting fired for exposing fraud was good for business. 2 weeks later, Agent Pierce called again. "Wanted to give you an update. Tristan Ashford's been charged with securities fraud, falsification of records, and wire fraud. 23 counts total. What's he looking at?" "His lawyers are negotiating a plea deal. Probably 18-24 months, plus restitution and fines. Could have been worse if he'd fought it, but the evidence was overwhelming." "The logs?" "The logs. His authorization codes were on everything. Defense couldn't explain it away." She paused. "Richard Ashford announced his retirement this morning. Effective end of month. I saw that. The company's bringing in outside management. Complete overhaul. Your contract's safe, by the way. New CFO specifically asked to keep you on. After we hung up, I sat on my deck with coffee watching the morning sun. 14 years at Ashford Financial. I'd built something I was proud of. A system that actually worked. That caught fraud instead of enabling it. And when they tried to bury me for doing the right thing, that same system protected me. I wasn't angry anymore. Wasn't bitter. Justice had happened. Not perfectly, but it happened. My phone rang. Unknown number. Mr. Callahan? This is David Brooks from Tech Secure magazine. We're doing a feature on corporate whistleblowers and system integrity. Would you be willing to do an interview? What kind of interview? Background on how you built accountability into audit systems. What happened at Ashford? Why automated compliance safeguards matter. We think it's an important story. I thought about it. Can I review the article before it goes to print? Absolutely. Then yeah, let's talk. The interview ran 3 weeks later. The engineer who built his own safety net, how Victor Callahan's system integrity protocols exposed $320 million in fraud. The response was immediate. More calls, more meeting requests, 2 offers to speak at security conferences, one from a publisher asking if I'd consider writing a book about corporate accountability and systems design. By spring, Callahan Systems Consulting had 4 employees. By summer, we had 6. Neil left Ashford and joined me as operations director. A few other good engineers from the old guard followed. We specialized in financial security systems with built-in compliance safeguards, the kind that couldn't be easily manipulated, the kind that protected companies from fraud and protected employees from retaliation. Business was good. One Saturday in July, I finished the Mustang, new brake lines installed, carburetor rebuilt, engine running smooth. I took her out for a drive, windows down, radio up. Felt like freedom. That evening, I got an email from Patricia Mills. Subject: Thank you. Victor, I wanted to reach out personally. The new management team at Ashford has stabilized operations, stocks recovering. The federal investigation cleared the company of systemic fraud, isolated to Tristan's actions. Your system's integrity protocols were cited as a key factor in detecting and reporting the violations. You built something remarkable. More importantly, you stood up when it mattered. That took courage. If you're ever interested in returning to Ashford in an advisory capacity, we'd welcome the conversation. But I suspect you're building something better on your own. Best regards, Patricia. I read it twice, then filed it away. No, I wasn't interested in returning to Ashford. That chapter was closed. I was building something better, something mine, on my terms. My phone buzzed. Text from Neil. Drinks tonight? New client signed. Worth celebrating. I texted back. I'll buy the first round. I grabbed my keys, headed for the door. The city lights were coming on, glittering against the evening sky. 14 years I'd spent building other people's empires. Now I was building my own, and nobody could take that away.